innately designed and stuff like that. I don't know. Like you said, Burton being Burton.
Basically, the rounded buildings look that you see in like the cartoon series,
or just like it's something like some innocuous building, like the Hall of Records. I'm going back to Batman Returns, which I just saw again, like literally yesterday. The Hall of Records is like this building that has like 3 giant like things like holding up, not just regular columns. They're carved out statues holding up the building.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, like I said, I think Returns is a little bit too much with the style over substance. I think the original one is the perfect example of it. It's a very cohesive story. It's got great actors. I don't know if I'd say that Michael Keaton is my favorite Batman, but he's my favorite Bruce Wayne. I think he's probably the most down to earth and plays the part really well, forceful yet vulnerable in a way. Like Bale's really, I think, was just, I don't know. Yeah, I like Bale. I actually don't mind Christian Bale's Batman, but I just think he was a weak Bruce Wayne. I don't think they really focused too much on it. They focused too much on the Batman aspect, in my opinion.
I want Bruce Wayne to be Patrick Bateman.
That's funny. I think the only flaw that I would see I see in Batman is that it kind of dates itself a little bit. It kind of very much, I think the soundtrack really dates that movie. Some of the look in a way, like, I don't know, it's just like, you can tell this was made in the late 80s, which is not a bad thing, but if you're the kind of person who notices that stuff, it really points out. Juan, what did you think of the first Batman?
For me, it was the quintessential Batman movie. I think, in a way, even though people did like The Dark Knight, I didn't really much see what's his name as the Joker in that film.
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger. I didn't see him, like, he was meant to be a much more darker Joker, but he didn't have really much. He kind of felt too much of a darker character than what the Joker really was, and that's what I kind of saw in Jack Nicklaus. As to where he is kind of funny, he is kind of out of the fourth wall, hilarious, but at the same time he is cold. He has a cold demeanor that actually shows in much of his performance as the Joker. And so I kind of see the first movie as more of this is how you're supposed to do a Batman film as opposed to the sequel, in which I do kind of like. And as for your comment about Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne and Batman, I did like him as Batman as opposed to, say, the following films afterwards. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't say he was the worst Batman. I'm just saying I just prefer Bale's Batman aspect better than Keaton's. But we can all agree that they're both better than Val Kilmer and George Clooney.
Well, Val Kilmer had a certain sort of je ne sais quoi to his character. Yes, the whole thing was kind of silly, but George Clooney was. The only thing I can actually do to sum up Clooney's reign as Batman was Clooney.
Clooney's Batman, Batman. You know what I think we identify more with?
Credit card.
You know what I think we identify more with Bale as Batman? Because we saw in a movie his upcoming and how he trained as a fighter. Like, when in Burton's Batman movie, we see Thomas and Martha Wayne dying, and then cut forward, all of a sudden he's Batman. We see none of the year one. Like, we see none of the trial and error, the not being so good at Batman, how he learned to fight and stuff like that. He just, he was just like a good fighter.
But we need
that. I think that's why we identify more with Christian Bale.
But that's what we need now. Like, after seeing that, I don't want to see that again, if that makes sense.
I think you're always going to need to introduce that to a new audience, so it's always going to be something that's going to need to be touched on.
I think if they do end up reintroducing Batman in this new series, I think they should take a cue from the Incredible Hulk movie. Not Hulk, the one after that, where They basically just took 2 minutes at the beginning, summed up. Yeah, basically 2 minutes in the beginning, summed it up, and then boom, we're back in.
That's exactly what it is. You pretty much knew what it was by the credit sequence.
Yeah.
I did love the fact that they actually used the whole sort of Hulk TV show thing.
The what?
The Hulk TV show thing with Bruce Banner, and you just see him on the machine and the gamma radiation shit. Norton basically just took the whole Bill Bixby series and just played it out in that movie, which I thought was awesome.
Well, we'll get into that when we get into the Marvel phase of. Perhan, stop playing with the buttons. Stop that.
You're like a child.
Yeah.
I am.
You're like a horny child.
We've got about 15 minutes left in the main story, so I'm going to try to get as far as I can. One, if that happens and we get cut off, I apologize. It's because I think once the movie goes off, once the live show goes off air, the calls stop. So if we're talking and we get cut off, I do apologize, but we're going to try to keep you on as long as we can, buddy. All right?
Lo siento, Juan.
Well, you need to get Skype, dude. If you get Skype, then we can keep you on for as long as we want, and then we can have sex talks. And then Brandon can basically... I'm not even
gonna go there.
I believe he's on Skype. You're on Skype, aren't you, buddy?
We can get on Skype.
Brandon, you're not supposed to say that on air, man.
Yeah, I tell you what. If we get cut off, I'll bring you into the call through Skype. All right?
You said I'll bring you into the com.
Miguel's thinking sex sports.
All right,
please don't bring in the finger, please.
Yeah, let's write this boat. Let's kind of steer the ship into the right direction. So Batman was a big hit, and unlike Superman, which didn't really cause a big upswing of comic book movies.
Did your boat dock, Miguel? Did your boat dock? That's all I need to know.
And unlike Superman being a big hit and causing a swing of superhero movies, that wasn't the case with Batman. You actually saw a big rise.
And it went down. Hello?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I believe Miguel has disconnected from us for a second. He will be back shortly. I'm just bringing everything back to normal. We do apologise on this.
And live radio, this shit happens.
Yeah, as Brad has said, this shit does happen.
Miguel's probably shitting his pants, though. Miguel's not.
Like I said, It's because you didn't ask me my opinion on Batman.
I agree.
It is. They'll have no fury like a woman's sword.
John, are you still there? Juan?
You call him Juan. His name is Juan. Silly English people.
Hey!
Juan Carlos Jimenez.
Don't respect my authority, woman, before I do stuff.
But Juan wants you to say his name right, por favor.
Juan. I can't.
Juan. Juan, I promise you we're not making fun of you. It's just English people don't speak correctly.
I do apologize, Juan. I do apologize.
Juan. Like he's the link.
Here's the fucking link. Now, anyway, let's go back on as we were talking about.
Too high for this show right now.
Let's talk about the Hulk TV series that they've got going, that they had going on. Did anyone see that, the Bill Bixby series?
I mean, I saw it like reruns. I was not alive when that was popular.
I wasn't alive either because I'm a '90s kid.
I remember sad Hulk music and Lou Ferrigno. That's what I remember.
I remember Flash Gordon.
I remember the Flash. That was like, I think that was one of my earliest like superhero on TV moments too.
I went to school with a kid named Flash Gordon, and no one fucked with him.
And no one did Flash. Oh, can I get a pencil?
Can I get those cheat codes, bro? Anyway, sorry.
If his dad's name was Big, that would have been awesome.
I swear to God, I'll link you his Facebook if you want it.
I will. If I add him, I'm going to end up going, Flash! Oh! Can you add me as a friend?
No, I'm gonna create a Facebook page of Ming the Merciless.
That's to add him. Just jot him.
Just to troll him.
Ming the Merciless follows.
You know, it's gonna be Ming Merciless.
I'm just saying, I personally loved Batman since no one cares about my opinion.
I love
female,
Batman
you
too.
sexist pieces.
Believe me. I wanted to be, when I was growing up, I wanted to be two people. I wanted to be Dr. Peter Venkman and Batman.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah. I liked those guys.
I liked Michael Keaton as Batman. I liked Jack Nicholson as the Joker, but I don't think anyone credits Billy D. Williams for playing Harvey Dent. I think he did a fantastic...
He's Lando Calrissian to me.
Do you know the reason why he never reprised the role in the third Batman movie, a.k.a. Batman Shithouse, a.k.a. Batman Credit Card, a.k.a. the fucking career killer?
A.k.a. I have no money in my bank account because no one loves me. A.k.a. Batman Forever.
A.k.a. my niece from Britain who sounded American anyway.
A.k.a. your nephew is my boyfriend.
A.k.a. I have no idea what the fuck is going on.
A.k.a. I have a boner right now.
A.k.a. stands for also known as. Wow, this show's gone downhill.
Hey man, this is what happens when I
think
get
it's my
show,
fault.
Man. No, it's all my fault.
I think it's my fault. It's my fault.
So, Marley, go on about your opinion about Batman. Tell us the reason why you feel that the film was awesome.
I don't know. I'm like, Billy D. Williams is one of my favorite actors. He always will be one of my favorite actors. I think the way he played Harvey Dent was fantastic. He's also been in a numerous amount of other brilliant TV series and movies and many different things. Moral of the story is I think he did it fantastically, and I don't think people give him enough credit, because he is a black actor starring in a film.
He was black? Fuck, I never knew.
In your defense.
You know what? I don't want to talk anymore. Go ahead, guys.
Hold on. In your defense, I would have to say, Billy D. Williams would have been the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest black Two-Face I would ever see. Unfortunately, he got passed aside for Tommy Lee Jones.
Do I answer this call too? What do I do?
Don't answer that call. Someone try and add Miguel to this call, please.
I will try and add Miguel to this call. Okay. I'm trying to add Miguel to this call.
We all trying to add Miguel to this call.
I'm going to try to add Miguel to this call.
I'm sorry. I am sorry about that. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I had a blackout and everything just jumped out on me. I had
Miguel,
to everything.
breathe.
And don't worry, I covered the show. And the show's still going on, Miguel. So please, continue.
Breathe.
Yeah, I was talking about Billy D. Williams.
And how
Okay.
he's awesome Harvey Dent.
All right. Is the show still on? We're still live?
We are still live.
Okay, folks, I apologize about that. We had technical difficulties. I had just had a blackout. My entire house just went dark, and everything just got back up again. So I just got my internet up and running, and I really do apologize. I'm going to try to get Juan into the group call so he can be a part of.
He's already here.
Juan's already here.
He's already here, buddy. Calm down.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, folks. Live, everybody.
Take a breath.
Okay.
Musa.
I'm sorry, folks. I was not prepared for this. I've never been in a situation like this where all of a sudden the show just dies and I'm like, oh God, panic.
I mean, it could be worse. You could wake up one day and find out that you're pregnant and the baby father leaves you. If it makes you feel any better.
That's what happened to me. I was pregnant and my baby father left me.
You sound like you're
it happened to Michael. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, I'm not because I'm fat. It's actually because I'm pregnant. I have to keep telling people that.
Okay, all right. Thank you for stalling for me, guys. I really do appreciate it. I kind of threw up the music. I was like, God, music, get it up,
Calm down.
So time.
It's radio, bro. It's like
Okay.
Baba.
No one's dying.
Well, folks,
He wasn't ready.
Thank you for playing along. I really do appreciate it. We've got 4 minutes left, so if you want to come on and make fun of me for kind of flipping out, 718-664-9265. We're just kind of winging it right now. Trying to get us.
Just for Miguel losing control of the show.
All right, beautiful.
All right, enough out of you, Burhan. Let's continue. We were talking about Batman.
How many Homer Simpson fucking things do you have? Jesus.
Anyway,
Step away from the duck.
No, more,
please. All right. Folks, we're going to be getting in about 3 minutes, we're going to be getting into the archive, so we're not going to be live anymore. So if you want to continue to listen on, we're going to talk more about the 90s and the comic book movies of that era. So if you want to continue on with us, just stay on the line, or check us out in the archive version after the show. You'll be able to hear the rest of the conversation. And like I said, Juan, if you get cut off, I'll just bring you in through Skype, right, buddy?
Sure.
All right.
Juan.
So we were talking about Batman.
Fuck you guys!
Aww.
You hurt my itty-witty feeling.
You can do your 17 push-ups to make yourself feel better.
Oh Lord. Oh,
Batman.
I'm sorry.
Talking about Batman. And unlike the situation with Superman where that was a big hit, but they didn't really do much with it, the success of Batman led to a huge boom in comic book movies of the 90s. You had a lot of them coming out, but the funny thing was, you didn't see any of the majors really get in on this. Aside from the continuation of the Batman series, you saw a lot of independent comic book movies being made, like Spawn and The Rocketeer and Dick Tracy and Tank Girl and The Phantom. Even some that most people don't even realize. I don't think most people realize that Jim Carrey's The Mask is actually a comic book movie. It's based off of an old Dark Horse comic called Mask.
It's not an old Dark Horse comic, that's still going.
That movie has given me nightmares every night of my life since it came out in, like, 93.
Somebody stop there!
Oh, you want nightmares. Have you ever read the original Mask comic book?
No, I stay far away.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. Imagine if they made the Jim Carrey movie, but instead of casting Jim Carrey, they cast Deadpool. Not Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, but like if real life Deadpool actually existed and they cast him as the Mask. Like
I'd be okay with that.
No,
Deadpool's kind of hot.
but it's a really gory
It's
book.
bit of my life, Marty. Seriously.
It's basically what if he did all that cartoon stuff, but with real world physics. Like he's tearing guys in half, ripping people's spines out, crushing skulls. Like it's disturbingly violent. But
it kind of makes me hot, Miguel. Just saying.
It's played so over the top that it's whimsical. It's fun. It's insane in a maniacal way. You'd never be able to have pulled that off on a movie. That movie would have gotten an X rating instantly. So I guess I did more peach route with Jim Carrey and emphasizing sarcastic more than the violence. But I liked that movie a lot. But you've got that. You've got probably what I consider to be one of, if not the greatest comic book movies out there, Alex Proyas's Crow, which I think is a phenomenal movie. I mean, what do you guys think? We'll start with you, Burhan.
Brandon Lee, epicness. Show me how to die on set. It had everything It had a great story. Brandon Lee actually acted really well with the role. It had it sort of paid homage to the character in a way. Very dark, very damp. It kind of had that whole sort of, they're pulling me punches as well because his girlfriend gets raped in there before they kill him. There's a lot of freaking very sort of underhanded kind of subtext in this movie. Stuff that wouldn't really see get away with now, for that kind of movie. I believe it was a 15 as well at the time. The story was there, characters.
Yeah, it's an R-rated movie.
Great direction. It was one of those sort of standout movies. But the problem was the guy who made that movie died. Then they started making it with different people, and then it just got bad.
Yeah, they were really chasing after the first movie with those latter sequels. Brandon, what are your thoughts on The Crow?
I really thought it could have been I thought it could have been a huge franchise for New Line. I think it was that was released, The Crow. But obviously Brandon Lee died.
I believe it was. It might have been not Dimension, but the other one, Miramax. It was a Miramax project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it really could have been a huge franchise for them. But obviously, someone had to load a gun with bullets or whatever. Whatever killed Brandon.
Juan, you still there, buddy?
Was that a Kurt Cobain joke?
Huh?
No. What had happened was
no.
Juan, you still there, man?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I love Kurt Cobain.
I can hear that. Juan, are you on the? Oh,
you're
still here.
here.
We can continue on, folks. We're in the archive we're in the archive section now. So if you want, welcome. We're continuing our conversation on comic book movies. We're talking about The Crow. Marlena, for basically what happened was with Brandon Lee, they were using real guns because I guess in Hollywood it's actually cheaper to use a real gun than. Oh, you already know? Oh, okay. Yeah, what's your thoughts on The Crow?
I'm a huge Brandon Lee fan. My thoughts on The Crow is, to this day, it will always be one of my favorite movies. I mean, seeing that as a kid, it pretty much changed my life, and I still, to this day, believe that every time I see a crow, it's the spirit of a loved one that's still with us. Anyway, I think it was beautifully done. The whole movie was absolutely breathtaking. I know a lot of people who think it's sick, twisted, and I really understand why. But I think the thing that I liked about The Crow the most, other than the acting, is the scenery that they used and just the building, how they stayed. It was just I think about it and I get chills because everything that they did in that movie was just absolutely outstanding. To the storyline itself, the way that Brandon Lee loved his, I don't remember if it was his girlfriend. I believe it was his girlfriend or his wife, one of those. The amount of love and compassion and honor and loyalty that he had to her, that after she was unfortunately raped and killed, God rest her soul, that he went back and pretty much avenged her 100%, like, tenfold. The whole movie was just outstanding.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It really is. If you look at it, it's a love story. You know, it's a revenge tale about someone who lost everything and tries to redeem him, like the sort of himself in a sense for the woman that he loves, and give her some sort of peace after everything that sort of happened to her. And it's really brutal in a sense if you look at the movie itself, but the story is something that stands out a lot in comparison to the other movies that were out there at the time.
I mean, I was banned as a kid from watching that movie. My mother didn't want me to watch that movie. She thought it was entirely too violent for me. But, you know, as a child, no one really listens to mother. She says, don't touch the stove. It's hot, and when you touch the stove. So, you know, little, like, 6, 7-year-old Marlena, oh, you can't watch The Crow. Well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch The Crow. Like, so other than giving me nightmares and being horribly violent, still to this day, it is one of my favorite movies. But with that, I will still be listening. I'm going to make a phone call real quick. I'm going to mute my mic, so continue on, and I will be back.
Okie dokie.
Alrighty then. Juan, what do you think of The Crow?
Well, I have no personal opinion about The Crow because I haven't really watched it, but it is unfortunate that this was the last movie for Brian Lee, which is a sad set of events. But that's all I can say on.
You really do need to go out of your way. Like, there aren't many movies that I can honestly, without a shadow of a doubt, say you have to watch. But this is one of them. You really got to go out of your way to get a copy of The Crow. It very much is a high point in comic book movies, and it's a great film in its own right. You know, I completely agree. I love the art style of it. I think it pretty much, it's almost like if you took the Tim Burton art style from Batman and kind of grungified it. Like, it's a 90s-ified version of the Batman, of the scenery from Batman. It's dark, lots of blacks, but no. I'm not saying extreme. I'm saying dirty. It has a much dirtier look to it than the Tim Burton look, because Tim Burton's Batman was dark, but it still had a very clean architectural look to it. Whereas, what?
I think Tim Burton's style was kind of like grungy. Like, it had like Gotham. It had like this texture to it that made Gotham seem like a real place, like a certain level of grime to it. But it was shiny grime, whereas the Crow was like, it looked like a real shitty place to live.
Yeah, you could tell in Gotham City that used to be a prosperous city and then just went downhill.
Yeah.
In the city that the Crow is in, there's no upside. That looks like it's always been a dump, and that's fine. It really gives it a texture. It really is a great backdrop for the very tragic story. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit from that. Yeah,
it could have been like Batman.
I'm going to kind of. Yeah, I'm going to pull something out from Nash Bozard of That Guy with the Glasses. He did a review of The Crow, and he brought up an interesting point. I think one of the intriguing things about The Crow is that he's not a traditional superhero. Like, there's very much much good as he does do a lot of senseless bad. Like, he comes off as very sadistic in the way he gets revenge on a lot of these guys, to where he very much treads that line between hero and villain very well in the movie, and I think that's what's very intriguing about it. To where, as much as you can sympathize with Eric Draven, the character Crow, you can see a lot of the stuff. He's enjoying a lot of the stuff he does a little bit too much.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's very.
Go on, Miguel.
No, go ahead. I was going to let you finish your point.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, and exactly what it is. It was sort of dark, down, But in the end as well, I think what made it stand out as part of the revenge tale was Lee's martial arts skills. The dude could act and he could basically kick ass. That's something you don't usually find in an actor.
Yeah, he could have been a big star, and I think that's one of the lasting memories. This, unfortunately, is the fact that as it's tragic that this was his final film, but it's not a bad film to hang your hat on. I mean, if this has to be your final film, I think it really pretty much has lent a lot of goodwill to the memory of Brandon Lee.
Yeah,
did he have any before that?
Before that, he had done some low-budget movies. I think there was one he did called Laser Mission. The only reason I know that is because Brad Jones used clips of it for his series Ninja: The Mission Force.
That just sounds awesome. First of all, just by name.
I think he plays like a secret agent who has to like recover some. I think he plays like some secret agent who has to recover some like laser technology. If you can find a version of it online or some clip of it, yeah, definitely check it out.
I'm gonna go.
But yeah,
I'm gonna go to Netflix right now.
You had some very uneven tones when it. You had some very uneven tones when it came to the movies of the '90s. Like you had great movies like The Crow, obviously. Dick Tracy, I've heard is really good. That's one I want to go back and watch because I never got a chance to see it. I've heard that movie's pretty good. I'm one of the few people who actually kind of like the Spawn movie. I thought it had good points to it. But you had a lot of bad, and that was mostly from the big studios. Warner Brothers was still doing the Batman movies, and they after the marketing debacle of Batman Returns and a lot of the controversy it got over being too dark for advertisers, they pretty much did an about face and went the Schumacher route, and we all know how that went off too.
Yes, we know how that went on too. Let's make it a The best thing about that movie was Arnold Schwarzenegger going, "There's a freeze coming. I still see you."
The best is the legendary one-liners that we have from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes.
The Iceman cometh.
Let's put him on.
Let's kick some ass.
Yeah. So terrible.
Yeah, I think we can agree. I think we can agree between that and Shaquille O'Neal's performance in Steel. I think we can agree that pretty much killed off comic books for that time.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the city back. So I can wear a medal and a hammer. Yeah.
And the Phantom didn't help either.
Aren't we forgetting David Hasselhoff's role as Nick Fury in S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Oh my God, how terrible!
That was a TV movie. That doesn't count. That's a TV movie. Doesn't count. That was on TV.
I'm clean.
Yeah, but you had DC pretty much killed off comic books for a little while, and finally, after years and years of waiting, we finally got Marvel coming back into the comic book realm with 1998's Blade, which I didn't even know was a Marvel movie until later down the line. They didn't push the fact that it was a comic book movie. It pretty much was just, hey, here's Wesley Snipes, and he's got a trench coat, and he's killing vampires. Go see it. Yeah. I actually really like Blade. I think it's a really fun movie. I debate whether or not it's my favorite Blade movie, though, because I think the first movie is a tighter story, but I think 2 has better action.
Yeah, 2 was a good movie, and I think it had better villains as well.
Yeah. Although nothing against Stephen Dorff. I think he made a phenomenal villain. I just don't think he was a blow for blow villain like the vampires, the second one. You know, I think their final fight kind of a bit for the most part, but the first Blade was very much story driven. I mean, that was pretty much, they were telling a story and it wasn't about the over the top fighting like it was in the second one. And I liked that. I very much appreciated that. Burhan, what are your thoughts on that movie?
I enjoyed this one. The second one, I enjoyed even more. The third one, I felt like I wanted to puke.
I like the third one.
The best thing about that movie is Ryan Reynolds stood out more in that movie than anybody else. And that movie was like a host of Ryan Reynolds monologues. I would have been fine because every joke he made was hilarious. But like itself was terrible. The fact that the fucking evil badass in this movie turns out to basically be the savior of the fucking world at the end made no fucking sense. The writing was bad, the direction was bad, and nobody took no one was accountable for it. And I think with Reynolds, they were trying to spin Reynolds' character out, and who else was that movie? What's her name?
Jessica Biel.
Jessica Biel. They were trying to spin those two off into the other two new comic book characters. Apparently, they were going to do a Midnight Suns movie with Blade and the rest of the guys.
Night Stalker.
No, it was a Midnight Suns, isn't it?
No, I think it was the Night Stalkers. That was their team name.
We'll look at that in a bit. But yeah, there's all these like, different issues in terms of the characters in that movie. It didn't work, and I think it's like killing Whistler off. He only just threw it back in the second fucking movie, and then they just kill him off at the beginning. It made no sense.
Yeah. I believe they did that mostly because Chris Christopherson did not want to be in the movie, so they agreed to have him on, but they had to kill him off.
But it made no sense. It hit the movie.
Yeah, the whole development of that movie was a bit of a mess. Do you guys know what the original story was going to be?
No. What was it?
Have you ever seen the movie Daybreakers?
Oh my god.
Basically take that story and have Blade in it, and you have what the original Blade Trinity was going to be. It was basically going to be where it was going to take place in the future where vampires had taken over the world. The Night Stalkers find Blade, and he helps them take back the human race from the vampires.
That would have been a better movie.
That would have been. I'm actually kind of upset. And actually, some of the elements from that original script actually stayed in Blade Trinity. Do you remember the scene where they find that giant harvesting plant where all the people wrapped up in saran wrap are being harvested?
Yes.
That was from the original Blade Trinity script that they kind of just left in there, which always seemed really out of place for me. Like, I'm like, this is cool, but it has no bearing on the actual story except, hey, they found this blood farm. Big deal.
No, I agree with you on that one. It makes no sense. The movie itself, I felt, was a bit disjointed. And as I said, the saving grace was Ryan Reynolds and Triple H's dog. Where's my dog?
Have you tried the lobby? Those are the two things that I liked about it. Other than that, it's not good at all. Brandon, what's your thoughts on the first Blade movie?
I haven't seen it recently enough to have thoughts on it. I remember seeing it when I was a kid and just really like cool vampires, flashy Wesley Snipes. I didn't know it was a Marvel character like you until then. I wasn't that deep in the Marvel universe at that time, I guess. But I thought it was okay. I never saw any of the other ones though. They never really interested me that much. I still haven't even seen the third one. And I love Ryan.
The second one's
Ryan.
Yeah, the second one is
maybe one day.
Guillermo del Toro directed it. The same guy that directed Pacific Rim and the Hellboy movies. So I would suggest that's enough.
It makes me laugh, dude. Because it sounds like
let's not get into that. I know. Juan, what's your thoughts on it?
For me, well, the Blade movies. The first Blade for me was really good. I mean, Wesley Snipes played a fantastic role. It's just that the second film was okay for me. It had more story plotting, and bringing back Whistler was kind of corny. But then in the third movie, it felt kind of like a wrestling promo because they had to throw in Triple H, which is puzzling to me still to this day. But,
Triple H is always puzzling people.
Anytime I see Triple H or any wrestler in a movie, I like even The Rock, when I still see him in movies to this day, I so want him to hit people with a rock bottom.
I think he's done that.
Rock.
I can swear there's one movie he's been in where he breaks out a wrestling maneuver.
Oh my God, that actor had a family!
They broke up.
Yeah. I will say this. I will say this. I do appreciate the director for cutting out the scene where Triple H buries Wesley Snipes, tells him he's not good enough to work. I do appreciate them for taking that out. That was very nice of them.
Tell them there's like there's a certain level that you have to go to.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Wesley. You're just not best.
Yeah, it's kind of Wesley Snipes' YouTube though.
So yeah,
I'll get the fans because the fans know what's going on.
Yeah, this is just for us, folks. This is for us. We're all wrestling fans. We're just kind of just dicking around, but yeah, Blade was a big hit. You had that. You had the success of Bryan Singer's X-Men, and you had the success of obviously Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, which was a huge hit. We really, before we get into that, we really got to thank one man for all of this, and that is Avi Arad, who is the executive producer over at Marvel Studios. He was the one that in the 90s brokered a lot of the deals with companies and really got Marvel Studios off the ground. He was the one that brokered the deal with New Line to get Blade. He brokered the deal with Fox to pick up X-Men. He was the one that brokered the deal with Sony to pick up Spider-Man. He was the one that saw that there was a future in movies. Even when movies were still just kind of, they were mostly left to the indies. He saw that there was a big future for Marvel in film. So he was the one that really went out of his way with Marvel to push for movies. Keep in mind, one of the big reasons why the big studios weren't getting into comic book movies, at least from the comic book end of it, was at the time the 90s were a bad time for Marvel and DC. This was back when the spectator boom pretty much died out, and comic books were really not selling at all in terms of the big two. And there was a lot of thought that comic book movies would eat into Okay, maybe that's the case then. But yeah, we're going to continue on. We were just talking about the 2000s and the post-Spider-Man boom of comic book movies, which, like I said, varied. They started off with promise. You have Ang Lee's Hulk, which I think is a very misunderstood movie. I think definitely is... I can see what Ang Lee was trying to go for with the Hulk movie. I just think people were expecting something a little bit more comic booky, whereas it seemed like Ang was trying to go more towards a serious route with the Hulk movie. I don't begrudge him, and I'll say this right now. I think out of the three Hulks that we've had so far, I actually think Eric Bana played a better Bruce Banner than the other two. I like Mark Ruffalo. I think he had a great chemistry with Robert Downey Jr., and I thought Ed Norton was good at picking up the slack for the Incredible Hulk movie. But in terms of capturing a lot of the angst that the Incredible Hulk has, I think Eric Bana did the best role for that.
Yeah, Eric Bana is a fantastic actor, and I would like to see him in other superhero vehicles, if at all possible. But I think that's why we have to refer to that movie as Ang Lee's Hulk, because that was not your traditional comic book movie, and I think at the time, Spider-Man was such a huge fucking success. Literally, it was the biggest opening of all time. So, comic book movies, everybody do them. That's basically what it was.
Yes.
You're gonna do the Hulk. Boom, and the marketplace became overflooded with content, and not everyone, like you said, was good.
Yeah, because you had Hulk, you had obviously the Fantastic Four movies, which I thought were they were great TV movies. I think if that was a TV movie, it would have been great. But I don't think that script deserved to be a theatrical release, to be quite honest with you. You had that. You had stuff like Ghost Rider, Elektra, Constantine. You know, you had.
Well, you know what? I think Constantine was a great. I like the Constantine book so much. The movie was a disappointment to me.
Constantine, I thought the movie was fine. I think the worst part of it was the lead. I think Keanu Reeves was just a bad choice as a lead for that role. I think you needed a more grizzled actor to play that thing, and Keanu was just kind of less grizzled and more mopey.
Yeah, he was really just kind of like, oh, I'm here, I'm doing this. This all really seems like a bad idea.
For me, Ghost Rider was kind of...
Yes!
Ghost Rider was... It was
lame. It was lame, is what it was.
I think if you really want to count the Catwoman movie in there,
we'll get to that because that's kind of the dead end. I'm
talking about comic book movies ever.
Hellberry,
that ranks.
Catwoman with a fucking helmet. What the fuck?
That ranks.
Catwoman was kind of another death nail for it. Kind of in the same way how Steel and Batman and Robin were the death nail for comic books in the 90s. I think we can all agree that Catwoman and even Elektra for the most part, because that kind of came out around the same year, were kind of the death nail for comic books at that point. Because like I said, it started off strong with Batman, with Spider-Man and X-Men, but yeah, there was no way we were surviving Catwoman. That pretty much was the death nail for that period. But what are you guys' thoughts on that whole period of movies that came out during that time?
Cash-ins.
Yeah, it was the boon. I call it round one because people saw the viability of comic book movies. They just had to reload and like go about differently how they do them. And we saw, and I think this is where the ideas of where we see the comic book movies going now, like a cohesive cinematic universe.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm getting an echo on your end, Brandon.
No problem. I'll mute myself.
Okay. So you have obviously Catwoman ending, but you had, I think it was a year later before we had kind of sorta a resurgence, and I want to say kind of sorta because it still would be a few more years before it really picked up with Batman Begins, which I think is, I think Dark Knight is a better film. But I think as a movie, I like Batman Begins more. I think it has more of a popcorn feel to it. I can see it a lot more times than I can The Dark Knight, and I have. I've seen it way more than Dark Knight. What do you think about the movie, Verhan? We'll start with you. Batman Begins.
No?
Caller from the UK, you're on live. Go, Batman Begins.
I do apologise. I was trying to find my hard drive, which I've still got to find. Batman Begins, as a movie, I loved it. And the reason being, I went to the cinema to watch this shit. I was sitting there going, you know what? I've got to watch the new Batman movie. I've got to see what they've done with it. I was a fan from the get-go anyway of Nolan because of Memento, which is one of my favourite movies of all time. I love that movie. Guy Pearce was awesome in it. And when I watched this, the retelling that he did, the fact that Bruce Wayne wasn't this sort of tech-savvy smart-ass that was in like sort of that sort of the boy wonder, so to speak, the tech genius. He was more sort of a guy who wanted to make a change and would do everything he could to do that. He wanted to avenge his parents' death. He wanted to sort out the fucking shithole that Gotham became, and then found out he was a pawn in a bigger game. The realizations he came in, the choices he made, it was a beautiful, beautiful tale of how Bruce Wayne got his start. And as Brandon said, year one, it was totally and utterly Batman year one. And it worked. It worked really well. The only problem I had with that movie was the Scarecrow. I felt he wasn't a big enough villain. He wasn't as polarizing as he should have been.
I think it kind of falls under that whole banner of having two villains in a movie, which the original Schumacher Batman's kind of it was Batman Returns that started that whole thing where you need two villains in a Batman movie. And honestly, as much as I like the idea for Scarecrow, he was kind of unnecessary, especially when he pops up in the second movie. But yeah, I agree. Actually, honestly, Ra's al Ghul is really the villain of that movie. If I'm not mistaken.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, Ra's al Ghul is really the real villain of the Batman universe, even.
But the thing is, as well, Ra's didn't have that big a presence in the movie. He was there. He disappeared.
He was there, but you didn't know it.
Yeah, he was kind of polarizing. And I felt that having those two villains and having Scarecrow play secondary is kind of what hurt the movie just a little bit. Not too much, it didn't make the movie into a pile of shit. It just hurt it a little bit. And then having bust Scarecrow in the second movie with his cameo, I didn't like that. I felt it undersold the character.
You liked the cameo in the third when he's telling people, exile or death?
Yeah, it didn't need to happen. It's one of those things where I enjoyed the character in the first movie. You're kind of watering him down as he progresses.
Brandon, what's your thoughts on Batman Begins?
I loved it. I saw it opening weekend. I think I probably saw it twice. I was glad that they're making good Batman movies again, and it was, a different take on Batman. And again, it was like I said, we saw Batman go through growing pains. We saw how he come up with that. It wasn't just, my parents are dead. Now I'm going to, fight crime
in a dirty alley.
Yeah,
a dirty alley.
Yeah, it's boo-hoo. My parents are dead. Now I'm going to fight crime with all my money
in a dirty alley.
In a dirty alley.
Yes.
It was, you saw you identified more with Bruce Wayne as the person, I guess. And, I said, yes, if my parents were dead and I had $1 billion to do all these things, I would be Batman too.
Yeah, that's one of the things I liked about it was that it very much was a very realistic Batman,
I think that's why what makes Batman one of the best superheroes, I think, because that's what, most men, most humans would probably do if they were in a similar situation.
We've talked about it before with our Man of Steel episode where we talked about the good and the bad with that, how it's great that they made him realistic, but if they're considering putting him in the rest of the DC universe, it kind of clashes a bit. You either have to go super realistic with the other superheroes or kind of go a little bit more far-fetched with Batman. We'll see how they go with that with the Batman versus Superman. Juan, what did you think of Batman Begins?
Well, it was a great origin story. I can give it that. Raza, I would have to agree with. I would have to agree that yes, Scarecrow was a bit curb stomped as a secondary villain as opposed to Ra's al Ghul. But I do think that it played out its origin story quite efficiently for a Batman film. It was the first movie I actually went to the theater to actually see. It was a good entertaining film as opposed to the second film in its trilogy.
I agree, and it's funny how we all say this because I'm kind of in the same boat. I went to go see it by myself in the theaters, and I loved it. Like I said, I think as a film, The Dark Knight is better and a lot heavier. Necessary, obviously, when you're dealing with the Joker, but for an enjoyable comic book movie, I think Batman Begins is a lot easier to watch, and it's a lot more fun, and it does have enough of the gravitas to. It has enough of the gravitas of Batman to kind of keep it going, but it's not completely doom and gloom like The Dark Knight was. But yeah, Batman Begins was a huge hit and really reignited. It reignited the fervor for comic book movies, but it didn't spin anything too heavy into it because, and we'll talk about this in a second. But as you can hear by the sound in the background, we're joined by Travis Goss of Rose Colored Reviews. Travis, how are you, buddy?
Doing all right. How about you guys?
We're doing kind of okay. Blog Talk and Skype and my internet connection have kind of been fighting with us all day. I kind of had a blackout, so there was a couple minutes of dead air, and I flipped out. But we managed to get it going, and now Blog Talk decides it wants to cut us off, so we're kind of just archiving this, and then Burhan's going to splice it into the archived version later.
Because
thankfully.
I'm an editing god.
You really are a savior. You are Jesus Christ of darn it! I had a point to there, but I forgot the program.
Now brace yourself, Miguel, because I'm going in dry.
Yeah, he's the Lord and Savior of Final Cut Pro. That's what I was going to say.
And I'm the anal rapist of retro-unlim.
Anyway, I'm glad that you're joining us, Travis. We're kind of finishing things up, but you can kind of give us your thoughts on some of these on what we've been talking about. We're hitting the mid-2000s of comic book movies. We just finished talking about Batman Begins. Do you want to give us some insight on it? Batman Begins, your thoughts on it before we keep going?
I wish I could have. Unfortunately, I've never seen it.
Seriously?
You should, man. Don't worry. It's okay. My buddy Juan here hasn't seen The Crow yet, so we didn't blister him about it, but definitely go and see Batman Begins.
I blistered him in silence.
That's all right. That's all right, Juan. We're not judging.
I am, secretly.
But yeah, Batman Begins, I hesitate to say it started another boom in comic books because you didn't see many other comic book movies after that. You know, Warner Brothers tried to capitalize with Superman Returns, which I actually like. I think is an underrated film. I think it has problems, but it's not the horrible POS that people think it is. You had X3 come out at around that time, which is the horrible POS that everybody I wish thought it was. You have, like, other movies. I think Fantastic Four 2 came out after that, but you didn't really see many other movies really become a big comic book hit after that until 2009, when Marvel had before that they were slowly but surely rebuilding their catalog again. They had rebought the rights from Universal for Hulk. I believe they might have gotten back the rights to Thor from either Universal or Columbia. One of them had the rights to it. They obviously got back. They obviously still had the rights to Captain America, and they had been buying up other properties. They had gotten back the rights to Punisher and Blade at the time when they started Marvel Studios, and their first in-house project was 2008, I believe. Was it 2008 Iron Man came out, or 2009? 2008. You had 2008's Iron Man, which I agree with Kevin Smith when he talked about Iron Man. I think it's probably one of the best kids movies I've ever seen. I mean, it really is very much a very populous movie. It's something that kids can go see. It's something that adults can go see. It's got great special effects. It's got a lighthearted feel, but at the same time, there's enough weight to it to where it doesn't. It has stuff that parents can, adults can chew on. Robert Downey Jr. pretty much carries that movie on his back, and really, it's amazing that he resurrected his career so much with that movie, But you got Robert Downey Jr., you got Jon Favreau as the director, who I think is a very good director. You've got a great cast with like Gwyneth Paltrow, Jeff Bridges as Obadiah. What's his last name?
Obadiah Stane, man.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I love the movie. I really think it's a good film, and I think it's a great film, and I think really deserves all the success and credit that it gets. Burhan, what's your thoughts on Iron Man?
Iron Man.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man.
That made me come. Seriously. I was in the cinema, I had a fucking nerdgasm. I watched that movie and I was like, what the fuck? This is the most awesome fucking shit in my life. And you know what? Without Downey Jr. in that role, I don't think they could have made Tony Stark the way he was. He had it down to its fucking T.
And you know what's funny about that? Favreau had to fight with Marvel Studios to get Downey on there because he knew that Downey was perfect. But remember, this was around the time where Robert Downey Jr. was having a lot of his drug busts.
Yeah, he was a piece of shit at the time. I think the last time he was busted before he was cast as Iron Man, he had a dirty condom in a dirty hotel room with a dirty hooker and crack.
Yeah, he was pretty much blacklisted from Hollywood, and Favreau had to beg Marvel Studios to let him cast him as Iron Man. And
now he's worth $10 fucking million.
Oh yeah, he's worth a huge amount of money. I mean, to the point to where they were debating whether or not they'd be able to afford him for Avengers 2.
Yeah.
You know, but you know he's a great actor. If you haven't seen Iron Man, check that out, and check out the Sherlock Holmes movies, the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movies.
Most people didn't know that Robert Downey Jr. came from an improv comedy background.
Oh yeah, go back and watch his stuff from like the 80s and stuff. You
Saturday
can tell
Night Live
that
as well,
guy,
baby.
Yeah, you can tell that this guy very much has the gift of gab, and he proves it with Iron Man.
Yeah.
You know?
He is Tony Stark, and the thing is, as soon as they find someone to fill his shoes, I think he's gone, but at the same level, he made that character. Iron Man 1, for me, solidified how awesome a B character in the Marvel Universe was turned into a fucking A character just from that movie alone.
Agreed. Brandon, what's your thoughts on Iron Man?
I loved it. I don't think I could have loved it anymore. I mean, it launched, like you said, it relaunched Robert Downey Jr.'s career. It launched Marvel Studios as a legitimate company. It made them basically put them on the map. It was a home run, and it was the perfect. I agree with Kevin Smith. It was the perfect populist movie. I think I don't even know how many times I went to go see it in the theater. I think I was just bored one day. I want to go see Iron Man again just because I liked it. I liked the Robert Downey Jr. character that much. I don't think I had liked any character that much probably since Jack Sparrow in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Agreed. And I think it was because of how populous and how much of a success Iron Man was, because this came out in 2008, right around the same time that Marvel was picked up by Disney. I wouldn't be surprised if the success of Iron Man led Disney to want to pick up Marvel. They probably saw the success and was like, you know, this would really fit in well with our demographic. We should really go after these guys.
You know what? They saw what they were doing. They saw that they were setting up for a cinematic universe, and Disney, exactly for the same reason they bought Star Wars, is they don't have any properties for young males. They have the Disney Princess line for kids, for young girls, 8 to whatever. They don't have anything for boys. Boys are usually attracted to other things if they're not already sucked into Xbox or whatever by then. So there's nothing. They have nothing to get them under the Disney umbrella. So nothing was working that they were making. So they went out and bought the thing. So they bought Disney. They bought Marvel and they bought Lucas.
Yeah, and we've definitely seen since that's happened that Disney has pretty much been smart enough to kind of not take the reins of Marvel. They're kind of letting them do their thing, which I know was the biggest issue that people had when that merger
which is what Disney has always done. They didn't really meddle in Pixar's affairs. They just said, okay, release your movies and take your time. Just keep giving us the gold, man.
Exactly. Juan, what was your thoughts on Iron Man?
Robert Downey Jr. practically sold the film for me and for my excitement for the Marvel properties in general. I think that Tony Stark, you cannot find another Tony Stark like Robert Downey Jr. And it's kind of sad that for a performance as Terrence Howard did in the first film, he practically ditched the role to continue his role in Iron Man 2, which was kind of sad. But the movie was just phenomenal. Like I couldn't find anything else that can satisfy me more than the first Iron Man film.
Have they even really officially confirmed what the reasoning was for Terrence Howard not coming back? Because I've heard it was Terrence Howard's decision. I've heard it was Marvel's decision. It kind of gone back and forth.
I've heard that it was Terrence Howard's debate. It was a debate over his payments because they wanted to pay Terrence Howard less than they were giving him for the first film. And he didn't really want that, and he knew that his credibility as an actor was meant to be paid for that much.
I don't know if I prefer Don Cheadle in the role or not. I mean, Terrence Howard really didn't do much in the first movie, and Don Cheadle's been doing War Machine so much now that I can't really see anybody else playing him, but I don't think that's a credit to Don Cheadle. I just think that he just happens to be there, so I don't think it was a bad decision. I just, like I said, I don't know. We didn't see enough of Terrence Howard in that role for us to be able to compare and contrast.
Yeah, I just think that Terrence Howard, he had the potential, but he was asking for too much, and I think that the fault wasn't on his part. I think it was on both ends of the aisle, because...
Well, we've seen how payouts are when it comes to the Marvel movies. I mean, there was that whole hoopla we talked about with Robert Downey Jr.'s pay, and how a lot of the people were saying that they were going to leave because they weren't getting nearly enough money compared to Downey.
Right. Well, it's gonna be a slippery slope on how Marvel's going to be handling the next Iron Man movie.
Well, they pretty much almost kill off the Iron Man, the Tony Stark Iron Man at the end of 3. I mean, he throws the arc reactor out into the ocean at that point. I honestly, I've said it before, I would not fault them if they decided to slot War Machine in that role and keep Downey on as a consultant. Dial down his character a little bit more.
No, they don't. You know why? Because at the end credits of all the Marvel movies, they say Tony Stark will return.
But they don't say Iron Man. They just say Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can see a situation where they bring back Stark as maybe a consultant and not have him in the power suit, where he's kind of watching from the sides and handling things while War Machine is out there blowing things up. Or, I'm sorry, Iron Patriot, as they change his name in the 3rd movie.
Oh, I can't stand the fact of Iron Patriot, because it reminds me of what's it? Not Civil War, Dark Reign. Oh my God. I won't get into that. I won't get into that little area.
I liked Iron Man 3, but I was not a big fan of them going with the whole Iron Patriot thing. I thought that was kind of silly.
If you knew the whole background with Iron Patriot in the comics, you would hate it as well. You would hate it as much as I do, for good reason.
Fair enough. Travis, what was your thoughts on Iron Man?
I really liked it. I've never followed the comic books or anything, so watching the movie for the first time, I was going in blind. I didn't know anything about who Tony Stark was. Did not know that he was a philanthropist or anything of that nature. I just went in there just without any knowledge. And to be honest, after watching all 3 movies, we've already said this, and I think it's a consensus, I don't see anybody else other than Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark. He really sold those movies because he's a terrific actor, an improv genius, I guess we could say that. Maybe stretching it just a little too much there, but I just can't see anybody else playing that role but him. And the movies were really good.
Agreed. I really do think that it's really... It's one of those things where it's hard for... I can understand a lot of people's feelings about the latter Marvel Phase 1 movies, because this was a huge hit, but they continued on with Thor, with Iron Man 2, with Captain America, and as the movies kept going, I noticed a lot of people's, their feelings towards the Marvel movies had kind of waned a little bit. There weren't that many people that I know that liked Thor as much as they liked Iron Man, and there were less people that liked Captain America as much as they liked Thor. I think it's because Iron Man was just such a great movie that there was no way you were going to follow up Iron Man with any of those other movies. Having said that, I like the Marvel Phase 1 movies. I think that they're really well made. I think they all have their own little personality, and I like the fact that they went that route. They were like, we're going to build up to something big, a big-time event movie, but we're not going to skimp out on characters. We're going to give you the characters, and we're going to really flesh them out so that when we finally do put them in this movie, we don't have to worry too much about the character development, and you'll have something to really attach to with the characters. It's not just a bunch of explosions and just cameos like a certain other upcoming movie that I'm not too happy about, Batman versus Superman. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on Phase 1 as a whole? We'll start with you, Burhan.
I think they did it the right way. They dealt with like individual characters and built the story up like that, and that's the way you should do. You know, the Fast and Furious movies are a testament to that in a sense, because what they did was they built up to a certain point in terms of stories with these characters, and they built it to a point where people could identify with each and every one of these characters and what they were doing in terms of these movies. The Marvel movies are pretty much the same thing. At first with the Phase 1 movies, they kind of got a bit retarded with it, with the whole Tony Stark being asked to join the Avengers, and then Tony Stark appearing in the Hulk saying that he was building the Avengers, which made no fucking sense. But then they kind of went back on track with that, kind of threw the Incredible Hulk out as one of those things that were in canon.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Hulk. Yeah.
But in a sense, it worked. It worked well.
Brandon, what's your thoughts on the whole Phase 1 initiative?
I think it's the blueprint for what DC should be doing. I mean, DC and Warner Brothers, this is what Warner Brothers should be doing, because they own all the DC properties in one shot. They should be releasing individual movies, building up to a big event movie, maybe like a Doomsday, or, I don't know, whatever, you pick whatever, situation you want, Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever. It's how you launch a cinematic universe in a comic book in a comic book setting. I mean, build up to individual movies. Each character gets their movie, and then put them all in one movie.
Juan, what's your? Oh, I thought you were.
And then it's the subtle hints towards other thing. It's fucking brilliant. Damn it, I'm done now.
Yeah, I'll talk about what DC's doing when we end this. But Juan, what's your thoughts on the Phase 1 initiative?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, bringing out Iron Man first as the poster child for the coming of the first phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then coming with Thor and Iron Man and then the Avengers. I kind of think that throwing in Hulk, without a Hulk movie in Phase 1, it didn't sour the moment, but it kind of left me disappointed. But it's still keeping me interested.
Well, no, Phase 1 had a Hulk movie. The Ed Norton Hulk movie was part of Phase 1.
Yeah, but Ed Norton didn't reprise the role.
Oh, okay, yeah, Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo took over, and I'm okay with Mark Ruffalo.
I think he's too charming to be Bruce Banner, in my opinion.
Agreed. I mean, I'm entertained by seeing Mark Ruffalo on screen, but it's not because he's Bruce Banner, it's because he's Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah. And I can kind of agree that DC did try to do what Marvel did with Green Lantern, but that essentially flopped, and now they're trying to make it into basically they tried to make every DC movie feel like it's kind of sort of well, they were trying to make them separate universes entirely. And as much as people want to see a Wonder Woman movie, the pilot, just the idea of a Wonder Woman movie, just at first seems kind of far-fetched and kind of feels like a reality, but let's be honest, its undertones is more along the lines of women's rights.
Well, no, they had the opportunity to. They had Joss Whedon signed back in the mid-2000s. He was in development of a Wonder Woman movie. He had a whole script written out. He was going to make it, and then DC balked at it because, in their words, they couldn't figure out a way how to market a female lead in a movie. That's their big issue. They just, it's not that they don't think, we're having issues or things like that. No, you don't trust that the mainstream audiences are going to react well to a female lead, and I think that's really cheap. I think if you give anybody the right source material, they can make a movie out of anything. And I thought Whedon, given his background with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, would have been perfect for it, and we've seen his success with the Avengers movies.
And that's the problem with Batman and Superman, is where, this is supposed to be about, Superman. This is basically a Superman story, but but with Batman inside. But then you're just tossing in random superhero characters like Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, other superheroes.
Then?
Yeah, you're just throwing in characters that don't need to be there, that are just there for cameo's sake, just to ham-fist us a Justice League movie.
Their impatience is what it is. I think they want to do a Phase 1 type deal, but they don't want to take the several years that it would take to make this movie. They're like, we need to get out another $1 billion movie now.
They don't have the 4 years at this point, because by this time the amount of time that it would take them to set up and produce these movies, Marvel will be already onto Phase 3 of the Infinity Gauntlet. We'll already see Thanos.
Yeah, you know what the problem is though, Brandon? They need to. They need to basically look at it at the way of saying, hey, if you're basically gonna do a Superman movie, I thought the best way would be to go with the Batman Superman route. But now they're adding Wonder Woman, and then they're going to probably add the Green Lantern and the Flash and all that. It's just not going to work. They need to have that story be told first before they move on to the next story.
You know what they really actually have to do if they're doing this? They have to look at Marvel's release schedule and look at the summers in which Marvel is not releasing any properties or releasing the least amount of movies. Because I think probably Marvel has the next 2 years where they have at least something coming out every 6 months, 6 to 8 months or so.
Yeah, you basically time them so that they don't have to compete with them in the
Don't
box
have to
office.
compete directly, because at this point in time, I mean, they're not going to be able to compete directly. People are going to give that a shot, but no matter how good their movies are, I think more eyes are going to be seeing the Marvel product.
Nowadays, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, it used to be the opposite way, because when Batman Begins and The Dark Knight came out, I believe those were the same years that the Fantastic Four movies came out, and they kind of hit a wall in terms of I believe they were competing against them in the box office, and people were like, oh, no one's going to watch this Marvel movie. DC's going to wipe the floor with them. But now it's the opposite effect, where DC's got to be careful that Marvel doesn't wipe the floor with them.
Very much so.
Travis, what's your thoughts on the Phase 1 initiative? Did I already get to you on that? I'm not sure. I forgot.
I did not. I don't know anything about Phase 1 initiative. I'm sorry.
Basically, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and the Hulk.
All those movies came out
I
between
see
Iron Man and the Avengers.
I see what you mean. The movies before we got to the Avengers.
Yeah, the lead-in movies.
Right. I can't remember we've had this discussion before. I've only seen Iron Man. I haven't seen any of the other ones. So, if it means anything, I haven't seen the Avengers yet, but it's on Netflix, so I should go ahead and check that out. But yeah, don't have much for this. I'm sorry, guys.
That's fine, man. In fact, actually, I'm glad you're on right now, because I was actually going to try to get in contact with you since your schedule on Thursday seems to be a little bit more open. This week we did comic book movies, and my big plan for next week, and barring any sort of scheduling issues, because I've got a bunch of things happening, and I'll talk about that after the show. But the next episode I want to do is video game movies. Maybe you might be better suited for that one if you're interested.
Yes. Oh.
Okay,
that was
yeah.
too much. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, next episode's going to be video game-based movies. So don't worry if you've got nothing to add here. You can definitely add some more for that episode. If we do it next week or if we have to reschedule, I'll let you guys know after the show. But yeah, Phase 1 was a success. It led to Avengers, which was probably one of the biggest releases in the world. I think it's in the top 3 right now. It's between that, Titanic, and Avatar. So this thing was a monster success and pretty much set the ball rolling for all the comic book movies coming out now, to the point where, as we stated, DC is now wanting to get their comic book movies up and running. Now, we're not going to talk too much about Man of Steel. We already talked about it at length, but I will say this about Batman vs. Superman, because I know we mention it at least once every episode. I've noticed a pattern with all these big high points and low points with comic book movies that usually it's the DC properties that kill it. You had Steel and Batman and Robin in the 90s. You had Catwoman in the mid-2000s. Given the issues and the drama with Batman and Superman and the direction that they seem to be going, barring this movie makes millions and billions of dollars, do you think that this movie has the potential to be that movie that kind of hurts comic books? Because we've seen it before. You know, comic books are not infallible. There are low points in the genre. I don't know. I have a feeling that Warner Brothers I have a feeling that this movie is going to be a train wreck, and I have
They're screwing the pooch. They are screwing the pooch.
Yeah. Am I just overreacting? I'll throw it out to you guys. What do you guys think? Do you think, given how DC is taking Batman versus Superman, do you think this is going to be their next Catwoman or next Batman and Robin?
I think next Catwoman, just lather them up, or have Batman going dry, because this is going to be a fucking train wreck.
Well, here's the thing. Catwoman, it is a kind of a mixed bag, because they had some really good actors who just had a really crappy story. The acting was fantastic in that movie. It was just...
Really?
Yeah.
We're talking about the Halle Berry Catwoman?
Yeah, because when you watch it, they had some really good actors, and they did a really good job. It's just like Batman and Robin. It had some really great actors. Unfortunately, they were given a really terrible story.
Have you watched Halle Berry in X-Men when she was given the lead role to Storm?
I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this. I haven't seen any of the X-Men movies.
Okay. The only good role that Halle Berry's ever been in was Monsters Ball.
Oh, yes, because she has shoulder boobs.
Oh, and also when she was sucking off Hugh Jackman in Swordfish.
Yeah, I was going to say Swordfish. I would defend Swordfish mostly for that. But yeah, Catwoman, I can't go with you on that one. That was a disaster. That was just, I thought it was poorly directed. I thought the story was awful. I think the CGI was terrible. I think there's too much bad about that movie for me to like. Even if you consider it a mixed bag, I think it's like a 99-to-1 ratio between bad and good. But that's your opinion. I'm not going to take it away from you. But Brandon, what do you think? Do you think that Batman and Superman, with as much of a train wreck it's been in development, has the potential to hurt the comic book movie industry like the other movies did?
I hope not. I mean, I certainly want to look at this through the optimist point of view, but we'll have to see, man. They said that first trailer,
Well, from what I'm reading, they're going to debut the Batman suit from Batman vs. Superman within the coming weeks. I believe that Warner Brothers sent out a press saying that they're going to be displaying the new suit design soon. So we'll see where that goes. Maybe it'll be a positive. Juan, what do you think? Given the drama with Batman vs. Superman and all the issues people having with it, do you think this is going to be a train wreck?
As much as I like, I would actually agree. Batman and Superman, given its track record of mistakes, I think it's going to be another train wreck. I mean, wow. As much as I love Daredevil, because that's a guilty pleasure movie, I don't think that it'll play out well.
You mean Ben Affleck?
Yeah, as much as I like Ben Affleck. As much as I love Ben Affleck, and yes, I've said it again, Daredevil is basically my guilty pleasure movie. I just don't think that will work out for him as playing Batman. I just don't. I mean, as much as his career is now. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead, Travis. You had a thought?
No, I was being rude. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Juan.
As much as his career is finally catching up, like it's getting recognized after a couple of big hits, I just don't think that now is the great time for him to actually get into to a superhero role again, because look at Halle Berry with Catwoman. She came off of high success and then came into Catwoman, and it just completely flopped.
Yeah, it killed her career. That's a good point. She didn't really do much after that.
Yeah.
First up, I got to ask, with Daredevil, are you talking about the PG cut or the R-rated director's cut?
R-rated director's cut.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, I don't know. In terms of Affleck, I want to be an optimist and think that he can do it, because we've been in this position before with Michael Keaton. We've been in this position with Heath Ledger as the Joker. I think given the right actor, he can probably show us up. I think, honestly, just from a development perspective, I've always had problems with Warner Brothers. I think they're one of these companies that when they have a good thing going, they tend to ruin it. Go back and listen to last week's episode on sequels when I talked about the story behind The Matrix and how Warner Brothers completely screwed that up. I just have this feeling. Yeah, I just have this feeling that they're going to meddle into it, and it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be this. It's going to be what Green Lantern was. You know, Green Lantern could have been that huge bomb that killed comic books, but at the time you had Phase 1, you know, going off like crazy. There was no way that even as bad as that was, that it was going to derail that. I don't know. I mean, Batman and Superman is it's a much grander film than Green Lantern was. So I think that if it does flop, it's going to flop hard. And I do think that it has the potential to hurt the comic book industry. Hopefully Marvel can keep it up, though, and kind of deflect that, because I want to see where they go with Phase 2. I want to see Age of Ultron. I want to see... What was that?
Well, we're going to have to wait and see, because if Batman and Superman actually flops, this is going to be not much of a detriment with the whole comic book industry, but only pertaining to DC Comics. If Marvel does fantastic success in the box office with Phase 2, and whatever role Vin Diesel decides to take in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Isn't he Groot?
He's Groot, but he's planned to be another superhero character within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know which, though.
Who's that?
Vin Diesel? I don't know. Yeah, Groot.
Yeah.
Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. He's a big ass plant.
Yeah, I am Groot.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see where that goes. You know, comic book movies right now are on a high. You know, everybody's trying to capitalize on it as much as they can. Obviously, Fox and Sony are cranking out The Amazing Spider-Man, and they're reviving the X-Men franchise with Days of Futures Past. So we'll see where they go. You know, there was already news of Marvel and Netflix already making a deal for a Defenders miniseries, but before that having individual spin-offs of Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and the Immortal Iron Fist.
I'd love to Howard the Duck.
Oh, no, please.
I'm joking.
Howard the Duck actually had a pretty substantial comic book.
Woo!
No, he had a pretty funny role in the comic books in the 90s, where you remember when they had the DC Marvel crossover comics, the Amalgam comics. He had a crossover. It was between him and Lobo.
Oh my God!
So he was Lobo the Duck.
And let's not forget his crowning achievement, which was his appearance in Marvel Zombies.
Oh, he was in Marvel Zombies? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
he was. He ate Ash Williams' head. It turns out it was the wrong Ash Williams.
Well, to me, my favorite moment of Marvel Zombies was the part where Hulk wipes with the Necronomicon. He's like, Hulk need to use restroom. Hulk need toilet paper. And he picks up the Necronomicon and you hear the book go, no!
Oh, I gotta get that book. I gotta get that.
It is very tongue-in-cheek.
It is. It's a lot of fun. But, like I said, we're kind of wrapping things up because we've been talking for like a couple hours now and I've got pizza waiting for me. So, comic book movies right now are on a high. We've got Guardians of the Galaxy, the X-Men movie, the Spider-Man 2 movie. we'll see where comic books go from here, and hopefully Batman vs. Superman is not the bomb that it becomes, and actually really does kick off the DC universe, because I really want to see them take a stab at Wonder Woman and Green Lantern. I mean, I'm a big Green Lantern fan. I want to see them do that series right. So we're going to wrap things up. Where can we find Michael Burhan?
www.nerdgenius.com, youtube.com/thenerdgenius, gotomotion.com/nerdgenius. I'm coming out with a new set of videos this week, including, hopefully, a Shot Fire Free. It's going to be finished up because I need to finish it and also shoot number 4 this month as well, which is going to guest star Mr. Clint Davis himself from XFI Network in a role which I'm not going to specify as of yet. It's also going to include Mr. Brandon Ligon, and it's going to be a funny episode. I have also basically got a few more projects coming up, including a short film I'm shooting called Perspective, and I'm doing loads of other stuff because I'm Michael Burhan and I just don't need sleep.
Brandon, where can we find you?
You can find me down at your local Greyhound track, any place where candy is sold and there are small children to pick up. No.
That's a little dark.
I take it to the dark place, man. That's what I do. I live in that place.
Brandon Ligon, resident pedophile.
Brandon
At your service.
lives in the dark place.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not give your children to this man.
Yeah, you gotta hear me every Wednesday on Dream Elite Radio, Sporthawks Anonymous, where I talk about sports and life and such. You can follow me on Twitter, Brandon Allhope. You can come to my house, maybe. I'm not gonna tell you where I live, though. You gotta find it.
You gotta tell me where you live, because I'm gonna be coming down in July. So
we'll figure that out. Figure that out. Fuck that. I'm camping on your couch, bitch. Maybe.
Fucking maybe. I'm camping on your couch, or I'm gonna skull fuck you. I swear.
No, we'll see.
And I'll play one of your fucking Xbox One, la-di-da, Mr. fucking French man.
I didn't get the second one. It was sold for me. I only have the one.
Poor guy.
I'll stick my dick in your Xbox One. I will.
I only have the one Xbox.
All right. Travis, where can we find Travis Goss?
You can find me on YouTube. I got a couple of YouTube channels. I got Rose Colored Reviews, the show where I take a look at classic video games, television shows, and movies, and through rose-colored lenses, I see if they still stand test of time. Writing up a couple of things for some future episodes, so be on the lookout for that. I got Rose-Colored Let's Play, which is where I play classic video games because, well, it's fun to do. And I did mention on another show, I forgot which one it was, but I mentioned I did record all the other episodes of Skull Monkeys, but they are now gone for some reason. Oh yeah, my computer got destroyed.
Also, ladies and gents, just to let you know, Travis Goss has accepted a job with retro-unlim Network to become an assistant producer here, working with myself on the network, and we'll be debuting a new show when it comes up in, I believe, our contract's going to be extended in March or May, and the network will be expanding due to the amount of joy that we're having coming up as well. So, guys, watch out for that. Watch out for Travis with loads more shit, because Travis is awesome. Check out his channel, Rose Colored Reviews. And also, all things retro-unlim. Make sure that you check out tomorrow's retro-unlim live stream. It's the live stream 24. We've got some special guests coming on the show. I'm not going to say who, but they are fucking famous, so make sure you check that out. YouTube.com/retro-unlim live. And also, if you like Skype and you love Skype bacon, check out I Got Gameplay, episode 64. I'm waiting for 69 to come up because I just really want to use a sex term for that. Episode 64. Wow. Episode 64 coming up. Which is I Got Gameplay. We haven't decided on the topic yet because we're all muttering over what it could be. I've got a funny feeling what I might want to do. So we'll check that out, guys.
Tell you, man, Synergy 64 at Nintendo 64.
That could work. And I'm also going to be doing a video on the PlayStation Network and the fact that you shouldn't leave your bank details on there because mine was hacked and 30 quid was taken from my account, placed in my PlayStation wallet, and then used to buy credit for FIFA 14, which I don't fucking play. Sony apparently are looking into the matter.
Juan, you got anything?
Totally disapproves this.
Juan, you got anything you want to promote? A Twitter account, a YouTube channel?
A PlayStation house has been hacked.
I got nothing.
All right, fair enough. You can find me and the rest of the crew here every Thursday night at 8:00. Hopefully in better condition, considering the blackout that I had and the issues with Blog Talk.
And there was sex as well. We have to add a sex to that.
You can find me here and the rest of the guys every Thursday, 8 p.m. for the Untitled Movie Show. Next week, I don't know what my schedule is going to be like, and I'll let the guys know after the show what the whole situation is. But if we end up doing next week's show, Thursday night at 8, we're going to be doing an episode on video game-based movies. We're going to go down the list of some of the best and the worst video game-based movies. I'd like for you to be back on, Travis, because I know you'd love to get in on that action.
Also, just one sec, I think we've got Marley here. She wants to do a plug. Marley, come on and plug.
Yeah, we're just about to finish up. Marlena, where can we find you?
Well, that's a loaded question.
In my bed one day, I hope.
Damn, so just throw it out there more often. Jesus.
Subtlety.
You can find me on
Facebook.
Facebook.
Lost on you people, apparently. Yes.
I'm always on Facebook, and I'm always sitting here doing nothing. So I'll always be here if you want to talk.
Fair enough. I've added you to my Skype, so who knows?
I'll always be here. I mean, I'm currently making a new Facebook because I have psychotic ex-counterparts that I don't want anywhere near me. So feel free to add me on Facebook.
She's not talking about me, by the way. I'm just saying that right now. I'm not psychotic. My mother says I'm fine. I've been checked.
Nigga, you a little psychotic right now. Just a little bit.
All right. For Brandon Ligon, for Michael Burhan, for Travis Goss, for Marlena Riley, and for our special guest, Juan Gabriel Jimenez.
Juan Gabriel Jimenez!
Juan.
It is an awesome name. It is very much a comic book villain's name.
Sounds like you've been in a Tarantino movie, dude. Seriously.
Your name is a hell of a lot better than Brandon Michael Ligon. That's for goddamn sure.
Hey,
I mean,
Michael's a good name.
His name would still be pretty cool if it was Juan too. So.
Juan.
Let me live that down, are you?
Never.
All right, for all of us here at Blog Talk Radio and for the Untitled Movie Show, I am Miguel Leon. And for the Retro Unlimited Network, you can catch us next week, hopefully, 8:00 for the Untitled Movie Show, and we're counting out. Meow. I wish I could hit the button so that I could play my outro, which, by the way, is the ending credits to the TV series The Critic.
I need you to send me all the both intro and outro files. If you don't.
Celebrity voices are impersonated. No celebrities were harmed in filming of this episode.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
Get away, zit face.